Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Recruiter Podcast. And the young gentleman sitting right in front of me here is Mr. Tim Deese. And we're going to get into some things, a lot of things today. This is going to be an interesting podcast for those of you out there. So take your seatbelts, buckle up, and get ready for some war stories and awesome information and content. Tim, before I get into our live reads here, I want to ask you one question, and we'll come back to it after I'm done with our friends of the program. But other than technology, in your experience, which is vast, and we're going to talk about, what would you say, other than technology, what would you say, and this is what I would like you to answer after we come back from the commercials, what would you say is the biggest change, improvement, or perhaps negative part of the used car industry specifically over the last 20, 30 years? That's what I'd like to start with after we get back. Fair enough? Great. All right, so, folks, here we go. In no particular order. No, I am going to take it in particular order. The first friend of the program is Tacoby. And actually, Dan Webb, the vice president of Tacoby, was on the podcast yesterday. It was an awesome podcast. If you haven't seen it yet, it's available, and you can check that out. So let me ask you this. Wouldn't you love to capture interested buyers while they're looking at your ad and interact with them immediately? Well, now you can. By using Facebook lead generation ads plus Tacoby software, you're able to capture interested buyers and respond instantly to them using text message, engaging the customer throughout the car buying process. Text messaging, boys and girls. With Tacoby, you have the ability to follow up by text, import other lead sources, and text blast up to 500 potential clients at a time within literally minutes. Visit Tacoby, that's TECOBI.com, to learn how you can instantly message with your new leads. The next friend of the program is our friends at Dealer World. When you want more traffic, but you want less vendors, when you want to reduce your budget and fees, Dealer World can do it. Better ads with a focus on leads, and more leads, chats, phone calls, walk-ins, however else customers come into your store. Everything Dealer World does is result-oriented, from the best radio and TV to the best lead generation, digital and social. Dealer World does it all, and sometimes for half the fees you're currently paying. Yeah, I'll repeat that, half the fees. Visit mydealerworld.com, one of the fastest growing performance agencies. I still like to call them an ad agency, but my friend Troy Spring wants to call himself performance agency, but I still think they're an ad agency in the country for advertising audit to see if they can help you. The next friend of the program I'd like to talk about is something I just returned from, and we can talk about here in a minute, is the Rockstar Automotive Unconference. Just attended their event out in Las Vegas. It was awesome. The speakers were freaking amazing. And Rockstar asked the question, are you frustrated, maybe even a little burned out by all the noise surrounding so many automotive conferences? Yeah, I am, for sure. And Tim and I just discussed that off camera here briefly for a minute. How do you pick the right one to go to this year? Well, it's easier than you think. Dealers and the hottest new companies are gravitating towards the Rockstar events. They're one of the few auto conferences that truly are delivering new information that helps dealers rock their market. If you're serious about increasing sales and profit in every department, go to rockstarinfo.com. That's rockstarinfo.com, and see why people like Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, Ask a Millionaire, on and on and on. I'll tell you what, the speakers at the last event were amazing, and I would go through some of them, but I know I'll miss one. But one that really stood out was Coach Sherry Wynn. She was amazing. They were all amazing. They were just freaking awesome. It was a tremendous event. Visit rockstarinfo.com for information about upcoming on-conference near you. Actually, the next one is in Nashville, and I believe it's in July. But go to rockstarinfo.com, and they'll give you that. And we'll see you in Nashville. And the last friend of the program happens to be a recruiting platform that we, Automax Recruiting, uses, and it's Automotive HR. Automotive HR is a complete HR management system for both large and small dealerships. It targets and tracks top automotive talent through visibility on hundreds of job boards, including Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor, Google for Jobs. I want to talk about Google for Jobs for a minute. This is very important. A lot of dealers don't know this, but to get your ad seen, your help wanted ad seen on Google Jobs, it takes very specific coding. And some job boards do it, some cannot or will not. So very important that you find a recruiting platform that can help you with that. When dealers ask us, Craig, how in the world did you find these people? We've been looking for people for forever. And it's like, these people are like, live down the street from the dealership and they've never applied for a job before. How do you do it? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Part of the reason is we use the Automotive HR platform. They're spectacular. From posting the ad, they can post an ad in over 100 different languages. Complete HR applicant tracking system. You can run ads 24/7. 365. It's a crazy platform. It's EEO and OFCCP compliant, and plus, because they develop their own software, they own the software. They're not white labeling anything. They can make changes on a dime. And there is something happening literally right now. Actually, it started last week in terms of electronic onboarding, which is very important in retention of employees. And their onboarding platform is the best there is in the world, and that's not a stretch or exaggeration. They are the best. Automotive HR, and our friend Stephen Warner is the CEO there, and just awesome person, awesome company. So this stuff ain't free, so we got to pay for the program some way, right, Tim?
That's right.
Got to have a few dollars. So again, Tim, thanks so much for doing this, man. I know it was a challenge getting up here from Jacksonville. I know it was a challenge getting over here this morning, man. It was like the gentleman that brought you over here was in the country, what'd you say, a month or something? Right. So it was like, okay.
No air.
No air in the car.
Windows down. I don't have much hair left anyway, and it blew it all over. I'm pretty vain about that. And
yeah, that's funny stuff. So, all right, and so you're sure you don't want anything? I brought yogurt, parfaits. I brought some donuts. You don't want anything? You're good?
My friend, I had breakfast at the hotel, free buffet breakfast this morning. Reminded me why I semi-retired a year ago.
All right, so let's just jump right in. So the question I asked you, other than technology, and we should probably get around to talking about technology, but other than technology, biggest difference you've changed, positive or negative, over the last, I don't know, you pick the time frame, because you've been doing this probably longer than anybody, frankly. What do you see as being the biggest difference in specifically with pre-owned for either independents or new franchise dealers, other than technology? What would you say?
Craig, let me start by saying this. I got hooked in the business as a porter when I was in high school on a used car lot. I got the hook. And I knew that when I got back from my 4 years in the service, I wanted to be a car salesman. I didn't have any doubt. But I became, not knowing what I was doing, a student of this business. I was very enamored with conversations with individuals, whether they worked for me or I worked with them or for them, about what was it like, what did you do when you had the biggest month you ever had? When you had a real big month, what did you do? what did you guys do to promote traffic? All these things came into play. To answer your question, used car product knowledge training is absolutely, hands down, beyond a shadow of any doubt, the most lost art there is. Now, if I can expand on that a minute,
Please.
the Progressive Basics timeline has always, or tagline has always been very simple. Every used car has a story, but if you can't tell it, you can't sell it. With a history, there is no mystery. Now, if those listening will take a piece of paper and draw a circle, put a line right through the middle of that circle. On the top half, write 50%. In the bottom, cut it in little pie slices. The top shows the percentage of individuals purchasing a pre-owned car current to 6 years old, and they are the private individual. Now, when I started training, that number was 22.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
What year are you talking about?
1982.
It was 22%,
Correct.
and now
Now-
it's half.
Yeah. Now, let's look at the bottom half. The bottom half is divided between all the new car dealers and all the independents in the country. So ask yourself this question. In the bottom half of that pie, I'm dealing with current to 8-year-old here. I'm not dealing with
Right.
old cars.
Right.
Who sells the most out of the bottom half? The independent does.
I would think.
Now, here's the magic question for all the IT gurgling, new wave, whatever you want to call them, order takers, internet takers. That bottom half, the independent. Now, in reality, in real reality, where do they get their product? From new car dealers. That's the most sought-after trade in the country.
You bet.
Now, the reason a used car manager wholesales a 4-year-old F-150 with 80,000 miles, which is stupid, it's because they don't know anything about it. This independent, by the time he gets that car, from the time that dealer trades till he gets it, now, I don't know what the number is now, but I'm sure it hasn't changed much, between the auction fees, the independent wholesaler in the middle, and the guy is like $1,400.
Yeah, everybody makes theirs.
Well, it gets better. Then their average front-end gross is higher than a new car dealer. But let's don't talk about the bottom. Who wants to worry about bottom feeding? Let's look at the top.
All right.
Now, the top 50% of those cars sold are by individual. They have the same two methods to liquidate those vehicles we do. Advertising and display.
Right.
Where do they advertise?
Online.
Same place we do. Do they have a company they pay some 40 or 8 or 10 companies they pay $4 million a month to tell them how to price them? No. Their price selling their car primarily is based on payoff. I mean, it's crazy. Now, let's look at another deal. When we look at our pre-owned customers, what is our average beacon score?
Don't know.
Let's look at the top half. There are no get-me-dones up there. There's no get-me-dones.
700 plus.
Easy. You know, if somebody sells you a car, they got to go get their own money. That private individual's not in the banking business.
True.
Now, where do they display them? Walmart parking lot, grocery stores. What else, Craig, is on that thoroughfare? New car dealers.
Yeah, one right after another.
Now, if you're a Chevrolet dealer, right down the street is a Dodge Ram. 2016, black, four-wheel drive, Longhorn edition. Now, your used car manager doesn't like Chrysler products because he got bit on a 200 that the new car manager went ballistic on the last day of the month. So he don't want any more.
Right.
So he appraised 200 in the last 2 months, and he traded for 3 because he don't like them.
Right. That happens. That's real world.
All right, now, this customer wants a black Dodge Longhorn. They don't want a Chevrolet. They don't like Chevrolet. Now, when they go by the Chevrolet store, they don't see anything but used CPO, Chevrolets,
Right.
GM,
Right.
maybe a sprinkling of off-make.
Yeah.
But when they go by Walmart and see that black Dodge, they stop.
Mm-hmm.
What is their average gross?
Yeah.
You base that,
Big.
let me tell you what you base it on. This is a very easy thing for a dealer to do. They base that on the buying power of the bank. If a customer walks in and he's 3,000 or 2,000 over book, and he's a good customer of that bank may tell him to offer less or whatever, and the customer's going to, yeah, but you don't understand. This guy did this. He sold. He is SOLD.
Right.
They loan him what he wants to borrow,
Correct.
okay?
Yep.
Now, that guy could have been at that Chevy store who lowballed that Dodge, trying to make up to pair that 200 with it to get out,
Right.
which is the way the most majority of all appraisals are lost anyway.
Probably.
It is. I mean, it's crazy. Now, how do we turn this into a plus for us? Now, let's take this Chevrolet dealer. They want to look at, and it's brought up to them every day by all these outside vendors servicing them, how many hits, how many CBC hits did we get, how many did we get online, how many appointments have you got? Rarely do you ever hear them discussing what we got in here already. Half of your traffic is walk-in from a visual drive-by. 50% of all pre-owned cars sold are from a visual drive-by, whether individual, independent, or new car dealer. Now, the used car manager in a dealership is the pivot to selling new. That's what his job entails. I think the biggest thing that we lost is a dealer or a general manager understanding the purpose of a used car manager. What is that individual's purpose?
Yeah. Well, anymore, if you're asking me, anymore from what we've seen, it's strictly, I mean, he or she is now just frankly a buyer and maybe somebody to get a car through recon, and that's about it. That's what we've seen. Not good,
Well, let me
but that's about
That's
about the
right.
extent of it.
That's right.
If they even have one.
let me line this down to you very simply. 64%, and y'all may want to make a note of this number, of all new car deals worked have an applicable trade-in involved. This individual's job is to know and be competitive in trading for not only their own make, but off-make vehicles.
Right.
Now, they are investors, as you pointed out. They have been given the dealership checkbook to invest money in a vehicle so that the store can sell a new car. Now, here is the simplicity of how stupid IT is. Do you think that every customer in the country gets a letter saying, and the last 3 days of the month run out and buy your car. No. Look at your traffic in the first 10 days, second 10 days, third 10 days. What percentage of the month do you take the majority of the trade-ins? The last 10.
Typically.
When are the lowest, not with the same amount of traffic,
Yes, sir.
when are the lowest percentage of trade-ins?
Beginning of the month.
Why? They're trying to steal them to pair them up with the mistake. It's a never-ending cycle.
Right.
It never ends.
Right.
Anymore, there is no accountability from the dealer general manager because they're not told by their IT source, who knows nothing about any of this, what to look for.
Right. Right. So they're not being trained, for one thing, right? I mean, this has been and it's, it's hard for me to, and we've both, we have, and we'll get into it, we have similar backgrounds in that we've worked pretty much every department in a car dealership.
I own 5.
Right, I know, and we'll get into that. The way I got promoted, if you will, was always based on the way I got my first management job was I sold more cars than anybody else. It had nothing to do with me being a good manager of processes or people or anything else. It was just like, okay, well, he sells a lot of cars. He'll probably make a good manager. And the only training I got was on how to be an asshole and beat up my salespeople and, just rough and tumble. I mean, it was a little different time. But the thing that has stayed current and needs to change is training. I mean, who's going to tell these young people? Because we're talking about guys in their 20s and 30s, whatever, that have been in the business, maybe 5, 8, 10 years, whatever it is. Who's going to lead the way and show these young men and women how to properly run that department? Because that's where to print the money. They're in the F&I office and of course fixed ops. Because if you're not making money in that used car department, or at least facilitating the new car deal through the used car department, ain't nothing going to happen in F&I. Nothing's going to happen in your shop, and the whole house of cards comes crumbling down because you're not going to make a profit in new cars, right? I mean, we're pretty much over that, right? It's like, you might catch one every once in a while, but the profit ain't there. I mean, ain't no way a dealer's buying a bigger boat based on new car sales, right?
That's right.
It ain't happening. So would you agree, however, and I understand and appreciate what you're saying, however, some technology has helped in regard to maybe buying cars. I mean, we both remember the days where you take a lot kid with you to the auction and, you'd get there, if you were smart, you got there early, you checked out the cars, kind of figured out what you were going to bid on and try to buy what you weren't, and so on and so forth. But now it's like you go online and bang, you just hit buy, right? I mean, it makes it easier. You're not away from the store. However, what's the downside to buying cars like that?
Well,
in your opinion?
Let me, Craig, first of all say I think IT is a wonderful thing for the car business and new service parts and F&I. I do.
Right.
I think that it has put a professional twist on our industry that it needed.
Yep.
But what dealers and our industry need to understand is the used car department is the last true bastion of American horse trading there is. This individual that runs that department, for the most part, is self-taught.
Yeah.
He's not going to pay a whole lot of attention to a lot of that stuff they're paying for because it's not real. A used car manager can't live in a world of, okay, let's go online and see what this car did. I think Mannheim Auction Report's a wonderful thing. I do. I think having that BAM, it's quicker than flipping through a black book.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
There are assets everywhere. But from the top down, Nothing is going to happen without an aggressive pre-owned department. If a used vehicle manager has the ability to appraise and trade without prejudice to product line, that was my whole message the whole time I
Yeah.
was in this.
Yeah.
You can't afford a prejudice.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're selling
Right.
Honda
Right.
or if you're selling Ford.
Right.
You've got to have the same level of enthusiasm to do business with all of them.
Right.
Then you have to have the knowledge to be able to understand, what do I need to do to this car
Right.
to be able to show it to the potential buyer what I've done, why I did it, and use it as a closing tool. This leads to growth that's not dictated by the internet. Now, how do you do that? You know, this manager has got to be given the ability to work in a sales meeting. Let's just take baby steps. First sales meeting that you do, let your used car manager go in and discuss every trade that we took in the last 7 days since the last meeting, the disposition of those trades, where they came from, why they were traded in, what they bought. So we have some information. Now, we taught, and I still do if I'm doing the only thing I really do anymore is large dealer groups in a quarterly meeting or a 20 group.
Right.
But I want them to be able to get some fire in their belly again. Now, how does this work? How would you do this as a used car manager? Me, I would say, guys, when you walk out and greet a customer, which is your bailiwick, okay? I believe greeting and qualifying are the two most important steps of the four. If you don't have an individual who can greet and qualify, now, let me qualify that statement. What'd you spend per up to get them there?
Yeah.
What did you spend on the guy that's going to shake their hand the first time? How much time, not money, did you spend with that individual? They have to know what to say. We taught managers in their greeting, whatever their greeting is, at the end of it, say, Craig, I hope you're going to trade us that F-150.
Right. That's good.
And he'll go, well, I might.
Right.
I said, well, we love those as much as we do our own make. It made my day to see you pull in here driving that F-150 truck.
Right.
And shut up.
Right.
Now, what have you done?
Right.
You've set that guy at ease.
You bet.
Now, let's go to the used car manager closing the deal. We recommend a customer trade evaluation form filled out on every vehicle.
Yeah. Up front or later in the process?
Right in the middle of the negotiation. Salesman goes out with a deal, comes back penciled, and the customer says no. When that sales manager comes in, were it me, I would go, Craig, thank you. I really like that truck. You know, you can get a new one like this anywhere.
Right.
But I like yours. We make our living selling those.
Yep.
I've obviously missed something. I want to take another look at this truck. But what sells them is with a history, there's no mystery. I would like for you to help me, and we use a trade eval. Where you bought it, what you used it for, where you serviced it, what I need to fix.
Right. Walk the trade with the customer?
No. Absolutely not.
That's counter.
No.
That's counter to most. So you don't walk the trade
No.
and quote unquote devalue the trade and all that crap.
No. They're expecting that.
Yeah.
You're doing the exact reverse.
Right.
Now,
Showing love for their trade.
They're sitting there filling out the sheet you're going to use to sell it.
Yeah.
Because it came from the third party, not from the used car manager.
Gotcha.
When you come back in, after looking at it, you can justify your move. You know, you go back in, you wind up cutting the deal $2,000. They go, why in the world
Right.
didn't you?
Right.
I
right.
mean,
Right.
My
Yeah.
God, that was on Jay Leno.
Right. You were trying to slaughter me here a half hour ago, and
You
now you
know,
dropped
everywhere
$2,000.
I've been through this razzmatazz.
Right.
You know, so you get this truck through service.
Mm-hmm.
And you have this little folder that we call a storybook folder.
Hmm.
And inside that is a copy of your repair order with the figures blanked off. They don't need to say you show you paid $190 in the shop for an oil change.
Right.
Blank the figures off. The customer trade evaluation form and any other pertinent information you may want to print off the internet about a 14 F-150 truck.
Right. Well, I like that.
Now, when a salesperson goes in on this truck we just traded for,
Right.
he takes that folder.
Right. Gotcha.
This is where it came from.
Right. Let the story sell the vehicle. Right. What do you feel about just switch gears just a tiny bit? In your stores, or maybe you've changed since then, discounted from the service department to the used car department, or retail?
When I started training pre-owned managers 34 years ago, I harped.
You must have been 6 years old.
I was 6.
Yeah. Right.
Jumped up and down about. I think as a matter of fact, I did this NADA one year, which I've had the privilege of speaking at 14 times.
Yes, sir.
But y'all need to give this used car manager a discount.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, this is a whole nut. The whole nut has to eat. Now, part of the deal in working here in our company is that we are a service customer. If you'd like, I'll tell you how I work with a service manager. This is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because I know you guys are getting into a lot of service recruiting now,
Yeah, we are.
which is needed. I commend you for
Oh, man, it's epidemic.
that. I would strongly recommend that anybody listening to this that needs help with these service techs, that needs help with service riders, whatever the case may be, to give guys a call. I commend you for that. It's been needed a long time.
Thank you. Yeah, we finally figured it out. Took a lot of time, money, and research, but we finally figured it out, and it's in epidemic proportions. It's horrible.
You pay what everybody else pays.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
Right, wrong,
Right.
it doesn't matter.
Right.
It says straight up and down, you're going to love this one, deduct for reconditioning.
Right.
Now, if in fact you deduct and you go to get this deal bought and you actually send in a copy of the repair order, customer trade evaluation form, then the service work becomes an add.
To the lender. Really? Damn.
Yes.
Never thought of that.
That's right.
Never thought of it.
Now, but I'm not going to get into F&I with you.
Right.
Service and used cars are a problem every time we did a class. But speaking of class, let me tell you the most interesting one I ever did.
Please.
Was the very first one. I was doing a sales training class, which is what I did in the very, very beginning, first year only.
Right. After you sold your stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in Louisville, Kentucky, doing a Chevrolet dealer. And at the end of it, he said, this went really good. We hired some good people, got them trained, blah, blah, you know the deal.
Yep.
But Tim, what I need is somebody to train my used car man. I said, well, let's call in a DA. We did, management and education.
Yeah.
Said, who is a company that trains you? They said, nobody's ever done that. I said, they do now.
Yeah. That's a pretty good opening.
I sat down and I thought, now how would I do this? And I was in a Mexican restaurant looking at a menu, and it was paper, one plastic.
Right.
I said, 3 pages. I'll get some of these printed with Progressive Basics Used Car School on the front, and then every page will just have notes at the top. So I put an ad in the Automotive News for February of 1986 in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, at the Holiday Inn. Little ad in the back of Automotive News.
Yeah.
Used car manager
Cost
school.
a fortune.
Yeah, like $500. And did not have a clue what I was going to talk about.
Right.
Rick Hendricks, two of his managers. Ted Russell out of Knoxville, Tennessee, two of his managers. John Allen out of Las Vegas, Nevada, from Jim Chasen, Rolls Royce. Ralph out of Gonzales, Ralph Sellers out of Gonzales, Louisiana.
Yeah. I know that name.
And then several assorted, Charles Bast and his sons out of Long Island. Out of the Clear Blue, there's 22 of them, I think it was.
Dang.
So they get in this room, and I pass out these little light blue books. And I had a flip chart. And I walked to the front of the room, and I said, gentlemen, this is the first time in automotive history that there's ever been a used car class for mixed bag new car dealers, ever. So how can I stand up here and tell you what to do? We're going to learn this together. Now I want you to write down the 3 biggest problems you got. Don't sign it. Send it to the front, and I'm going to write it down. Now, what do you think the very number one first item was? Overaged inventory.
Well, yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
To this day, if I did it, it'd be the same
Yeah,
thing.
well, dude, I mean, that's where the money's at, right? I mean, it's like controlling that asset.
Now, how much money do you spend with IT companies every month to help you control overaged cars, like 20 different programs?
A lot, yeah.
It ain't working.
Right.
What was the third one? Salespeople for pre-owned. They don't want to sell used cars. Well, there's a reason for that. Reason for that is very simple. They break. You don't have them ready. They go out there, it's out of gas,
Yeah.
or they turn the kit, go,
Right.
or tires half flat,
Right.
or they go out, drive it, and it's like this.
Right. Right.
And you call yourself a used car manager. You got $1 million sitting out there,
Yeah.
and half of it run.
Yeah.
Now, you can't sell more new if you're loaded in used because you get too conservative. Let's repeat that.
Please.
If half your used car inventory, or a third, or 10%
Yeah.
is grossly overaged, which is over 60 days old,
Right.
actually,
Yeah, that's gross.
and a new car is appraised, a new car deal has an appraisal. Mentally, a good used car manager is initially going to try to steal it because that's the only way you get out of this stuff is to pair it.
Right. Well, profit's made when you buy the car, not when you sell the car, kind of axiom, of course.
Now, every dime in new car gross, you're showing 64% of the gross, because that's the ones with trades. At the end of this month on your statement,
Right.
is fictitious.
Expand on that. What do you mean?
Because until these used that you traded in or sold, you ain't got no cash on them.
Oh, I got. Okay. Yeah. You're right. That's right.
Now, when I started, that was on the plus side at the end of the month. Maybe not much. That's why they were in school.
Yeah.
But I rarely, way back there, saw used car departments losing the kind of money they lose now.
Right.
When they traded a car, let me back up and help you out here. God, I'm old.
Nah, we're.
In 70,
Did you see? Keep your thought. Did you happen to see Fran Taylor commented?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. He said antiques. I said antiques have more value, man.
That's right.
We're more valuable.
that's
Shit, there's and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No.
Next month, actually, June 10th, two things happen. I'll be celebrating my 26th year of sobriety, of putting down alcohol.
17 years, my friend of Bill W.
No shit.
Yeah.
Congratulations. God bless you. That's
And
awesome.
you.
I didn't know that. And it'll be my 46th year in the business. Now, you've been, how many? You got me. What do you got, 50?
1966.
So 53 years? So we got 99 between us. Shit, one of us got alive for a year, man. We got to hit 100.
That's where I was going back to when I started. But let's identify this a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
In 71, when I started,
Yeah.
we had 5 players as new car dealers. They had 90% of the market. Ford, GM, Chrysler, American Motors,
Yeah.
and then your import.
AMC.
Okay? Independents were slug dealers.
Yeah.
There weren't that many.
Had a trailer.
We didn't have auctions. We had very few.
That's true.
You had
That's true.
one for a tri-state area that
Yeah.
was mammoth.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's right.
Independents, if I ran a block of cars, I wrote absolute on the window.
Absolute.
Absolute, period.
Okay.
And the first time I did it, these old hat used car managers go, "You're crazy. We're going to steal. I'm going to bid $10 on it." I said, "Do it."
Right.
First car went through.
Yeah.
I think I had $1,500 in it.
Yeah.
Dropped the hammer at $400.
Right.
Next car, I think I had same amount in it,
Right.
$500-600. I was getting nervous.
Right.
More and more and more buyers coming over there because of stealing the car, stealing the car.
There you go.
By the time my block was done, I was profitable.
There you go.
So from that point forward, going to the auction, I put absolute on mine.
That's funny.
Now, it's fact. Now,
Yeah.
let's look at it. We didn't have Sears, Kmart, and Walmart servicing our cars back then.
Nope.
The dealer owned the service and parts business in their market. They owned it.
Back then, yes. Started turning, but yeah.
You
they still
sold 2.5 to 1 used to new.
did. Yep.
We now sell 5.1. I'm very disappointed in NADA today, what it's become as far as their training goes. Very, very, very. They're focused too much on the non-real world of business.
Yeah, it's more numbers and pushing ink around. That's for sure.
But
than
not to
trans.
change the subject, but I've heard good things about this Rockstar conference. I have.
Yeah, it's
I
awesome,
mean,
dude.
I don't do it much anymore, but I would speak at that. I've heard that's a really good deal.
I'll hook you up with Matt.
But,
You and him
but
talk.
back to this owning it all thing. The reason that those things happened the way they did, where we controlled it, we owned it, we were responsible to our customers, et cetera, okay? When I started selling, a lot like you, I went in, applied for a job. He had his back to me, with his feet propped up on the garbage can, sleeping off a hangover. Ironically enough, isn't it? And he said, "I need a warm body." We work 10 to 10, 7 days a week. Here are 3 rate books, credit apps. You write everything on 6% with single life. There's the inventory. Go get it.
Yeah.
I'm 23.
Right.
I go out. I ran for lunch and laundry for 2 days to avoid catching an up. I finally walked back in his office and I said, "Sir, now this is a retired 30-year
Right.
W4 warrant officer."
Right. This is 71, 72?
71.
Right.
So he looked around at me. He said, "Yeah, I'll give you some sales tips.
Yeah.
You go out there and pick out the ones you want, sell them, and let us sell the rest of them." Now, as crazy as that is, Craig, listen to this.
Dude, I like that
I
advice.
walked out the door and I thought, man, that's the smartest thing I've ever heard. So I went out and picked out 8 cars.
Right.
that I love, because I mean, this back in the 4-speed bid block days.
I'm with
okay?
you. I'm with you.
At the end of that week,
It was a Mopar, or you started with
no, it's
Mopar,
an
didn't you?
independent lot.
Oh, okay.
I went to Mopar as a sales manager from there.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
I could never have done what I did if I hadn't been on an independent lot. Never.
Mm-hmm.
So sold 6 that week. Well, by the end of the month, I had sold 27 used cars on an independent lot.
Dang.
By the end of the year, this was September, I'd made $32,000, bought my wife of 6 months a new vet, and a house on the GI Bill.
Dude, we talked about that via text. That I think my first year selling cars, I made like $29,000 in my house, and I bought my first house, and it was nice. Acre of land. I mean, it was nice for $26,000. It's like that don't happen no more, right? That was 1974 or whatever it was.
That's right.
Right, you kind of the same thing.
After 6 months, I said, okay, I've figured this out, and I want to be a sales manager.
Right.
Of
course.
I done figured this out.
Yeah.
So, the
Yeah,
guy,
for me, it was, the first sales meeting, guy got up and, probably at the time was probably a $200 suit, which is a
Kuppenheimer.
Hart Schaffner Marks.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And he gives his sales meeting. I go, well, shoot, I can do that. I mean, it's like the first one, right?
That's right.
And then the first time I saw Joe Girard speak, it was like, shit, I can do that. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yep.
Which I think is probably a good thing, because probably I don't think everybody thinks like that.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
But the guy that goes around to every dealership and gets the banners and the drive-out tags and the business, every town has one of those guys.
Yes, sir.
That tracks the news from dealership to dealership.
Yeah.
And he came actually to me, which surprised me. And he said, Tim, we got a new Dodge dealer in town, and he's looking for a used car manager, and I recommended you.
6 months into the business.
So I went and sat down with this guy, very sharp, astute, first new car dealer I'd ever met.
Right.
Hart Schaffner and Mark.
Right.
His name was Wayne Schmidt. He now owns Suncoast Cross Plymouth in St. Pete.
Oh.
And smartest individual I had ever met, and to this day still rivals that.
I'll be darned.
But we sat down, and he looked at me, and he kind of had this quirky smile. He said, were you in the military? I said, yes, sir. He said, what branch? I said, Marine Corps. He went, me too. He said, what does sales manager mean, Tim? Well, I knew right then I had to come up with something really, really, really good for this guy. Mm-hmm. So I probably did my best recital on what a sales manager is I've ever done in my life. He looked at me, he said, no, son, I'm sorry. Sales manager means you're responsible for the success of that sales force. You don't get a raise till they get one first. And money in this business comes from the blacktop up, not me down. And if you don't have an increase in income, Big Daddy don't have one. That's what I'm looking for. And he hired me, and kind of like you with that Plymouth store, we smoked that little Dodge store, man. I mean, there were months we outsold the Ford deal, But the main thing that I focused on was trade-ins, because I'd been taught that.
Sure.
I came off an independent lot. If somebody came in there with a 4-speed Camaro with no air, everybody else would look at that car like death.
Right.
I'd look at that car like ain't nobody else got one of those.
Right. That's gross profit sitting there, man.
You
bet. I'm with you.
So it wasn't, this gave me the idea at Progressive Basics as well, was one of the class sections we taught was on appraising. You cannot have a prejudice. And that was the only reason for my success in that Dodge store.
Right.
Was no matter what kind of car it was, because I sold them all.
Right.
Now, every new car store out there, Craig, has a used car department.
Yep.
why aren't the salespeople selling used? If you can improve your used car volume, you can improve the aggressive nature of the manager in appraising.
Yeah, I agree. My son-in-law, my oldest daughter's husband, was in the landscaping business for years. Had a big job for a national, like a huge landscaping franchise company, and just got tired of it. The politics, there was kind of nowhere for him to go. So he called me one day and he said, "I want to get in. What do you think about me getting in the car business?" I said, "Seriously?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, frankly, you're a super nice guy. You're smart. Ain't nobody going to outwork you. Where do you think about working?" He said, "Well, he's in Columbus, Ohio. And Buyers, are you familiar with the Buyers Group? They've been there forever. Just top quality."
Ours, Spitzer, yeah, they're all right there in that
yeah.
same, yeah.
So he said, "Well, there's Subaru dealership." I said, "Okay." I said, "Subaru's a great brand, but if you can, sell used cars there."
That's right.
He said, "Why?" I said, "You'll make a ton of money." So he did, and he is. But to go along with what you're saying, and something and I don't know, I can't remember being taught this specifically, but the first management job I got hired as a quote unquote closer. Hell, I didn't even know what a closer
That's
was.
right.
Right? I just went and got, sold myself on the job, and then progressed through the thing, and I ended up being the general manager of the store at like 28. And it was a big, big urban Chevrolet store. But I figured the way I looked at my used car inventory, and it was massive. Well, for that area, it was massive, 250 units in stock. So typically, I figured that Chevrolet sign, people figured we had used Chevrolets, but that quote unquote off-brand car, that's where we made the money, man.
Right.
That's where we made the money.
Right.
Put that Dodge out there, that Dodge Aries, and in a finance deal, and it was all over. And the dealer would question me, like, why we got all these Dodges and Fords and stuff out? We're a Chevrolet dealership. I said, yeah, they know that. We're going to have those. We're going to trade for those. But I need other stuff here. I go to the auction, buy 30, 40, 50 cars. Just as a side note to that, this is crazy. I was taught how the previous general manager's name was Fred Gerard. He was a real mentor of mine. He was a madman. He was crazy. Expensive suit. This guy was. He
They
was.
all were. Yeah, hell yeah. We were too, bro.
Oh yeah.
Still are.
So he goes, I remember this day. He says, come to the auction with me because someday you're going to have my job. You got to learn how to do this. He said, but first you're going to be the used car manager. The progression at this store, and you'll be able to appreciate this, how well run this store was. You started there as a closer. Then you became a new car manager, one of three. Then you became the used car manager. Used car manager was the second most prestigious position in that dealership, then GM. So he said, you got to learn this part of the business. So we go to it was the Akron Auto Auction, actually. It was a small auction. He stood in the line like this with his hand up. Just overpaid, like big money for everything. Just right from jump. Just, yep. He'd buy 3, 4, it would take 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 purchases where he paid, I'm talking about way overpaid, $1,500, $2,000. He paid double what the car was worth, right? Pretty soon I look around, him and I are the only ones in the lane. And then he just started stealing stuff. And I tell you what, it sounds so crazy. And then, we could debate this probably for hours. And then we'd take them home and we'd average them and, so on and so forth.
That's right. That's how you do it.
Rebook them and, and what the real money is on the car. But, man, it was crazy, man. And it was like, and I did that the rest of my career. It was just like, I'm just going to bully my way. I'm going to bully everybody out of the lane here. It's like, this guy's nuts, man. What's he doing? And pretty soon I'd be the only one there and start stealing stuff. So, but
that's right. I had a interesting 20 group one time, and this was mega dealers, and they were saying, Tim, we are sick and tired of these used car losses at month end, always higher than anticipated. I said, okay, let me tell you what I'd do if I were you. First thing I'd do is at the end of next month, every car that was a trade-in that was traded in the last 10 days of the month, if that car took a loss wholesale, every dime of it would be charged back to new car gross at the end of the month. All of a sudden, the whole opinion of this thing is going to change because that's where your problem lies.
I hear you.
We got to do business at month end.
Right.
You got to do business all month, Hoss.
Yeah.
You just looked at the numbers. You got the same traffic first 10 days, second 10 days, third 10 days.
Yep.
When are you going to be most aggressive? When you need to get paid.
Yep.
You know, I have stood as you have on that point on the 29th of the month in rain, one car short of a house payment. If you've never been there, in my opinion, you can't run a new car store.
Oh, there's no question about it,
You
sir.
can't do it.
Yep, I would agree 100% with that. Let's before we spin out of that, because I got a couple things. This is probably going to go on for a while. There's so many things. You're such an interesting man, and I want our audience to know more about you. I mean, the word legend generally means we're older, but
Absolutely, we are.
But in your case, you really are a legend in my book,
Well, thank you.
and there's only a few around anymore, and we'll talk about it. We talked about a podcast a little bit about our friend Jim Ziegler, and we'll talk about him and some other people. But before we transition out of that, I think it's so important that for our audience and for either current managers or men and women that want to get into management, that used car, no matter how it comes to us, whether we trade for it, we buy it, however we come across owning that thing, that merchandise has to be so precious to us as a manager, as a dealer, to everyone in the store, because it is obviously a depreciating asset. I mean, typically, the car is never going to be worth more typically. Then there's some variables to that, market conditions, gas prices, or whatever. Can actually make the car worth maybe a little more money a month into owning the car, but typically it's a depreciating asset sitting on your lot. Wouldn't you agree that the emphasis to immediately make a decision, wholesale, retail, get the car in the shop or not, spend the right money on the car, merchandise it online, however, I mean, it's got to be in lightning speed anymore. I mean, if you trade that car on what's today's date, the 21st, if that car's not ready, I mean, if that car's not ready to take a picture of it and through the shop in a couple days, in my opinion, there's a problem. There's a problem there. It's got to be taken care of because 2 days is going to be 12 days, and 12 days, pretty soon that car is going to be 30 days old, and then salesmen start walking around past that car. And then before you know it, it's 45 days, and it's like, well, I'm okay. I'm a 30, 45-day turn. Dude, if it's my money, if I'm a dealer principal now, and it's my money, right, that car better be gone. I don't want to hear about that car after 20 days. I mean, I want that car in somebody's driveway other than mine.
You brought up a point I've not thought about in 20 years, and I used to do that. And it's a lot of this happens when you get older. An automobile in a dealership is an automotive commodity, no different than trading oats or corn futures.
Right.
Now, when you trade a car or when you buy a stock, you have to pay a commission.
Yep.
The commission on a used car is the service department. When you sell it, you pay a commission to the salesman.
Correct.
The amount of commission made and the amount of profit you make is dictated in the shortest amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing that I'm sitting here thinking now, Craig, I wish I'd waited another 2 years to quit because I had just developed Storybook and said I'm just too old to go back out here and start all this again, you know. But if we did a storybook store where we put the pedigree in the window of who it was owned by and where they traded it and all that stuff, and we went through the training of the managers, you're going to like this. Used car manager had the right service for 1 week. I don't care if he'd been there 100 years or if he'd been there 2 weeks. He had to go in that service department and right service. The reason I did that is I wanted him to put that F-150 through that Honda shop so he could learn characteristics. He could see, because they are self-taught. You write service for a week, as I did.
I did too.
And you did.
Yep.
You get a whole newfound respect for the mechanical component we're dealing with.
That's a fact. That can be done. That can be done. Dealers can do that
Absolutely.
tomorrow, man. And that's so important, Tim. That's so important that we know, the word synergy, working together. If I'm a dealer principal, I hire somebody, they're going to know a half a dozen different jobs in that store, man, because it all comes together. And we seem to have that line of demarcation that's been forever between sales and service or between new and used cars. And then you get a whole nother world in F&I because, everybody's out to get them. So it's like, if I'm hiring somebody and they have management potential, it's just like you just said, man, they're working everywhere.
Listen to this one. You're a used car manager in a Ford store. You've been there for 8 years. Your dealer decides, I'm calling Tim Deese. I'm going to have him come in here and do the storybook. I want him to teach our people how to handle a used car up and how to sell a pre-owned car.
Right.
You got to go work as a service writer for a week. I ain't going to work. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. You're going to work as a service writer for a week.
Yeah.
Now, here's the beauty of that. I've never seen a situation where in that week, here I am, I'm standing at the podium, in pulls, an '04, white, short bed, crew cab, 4-wheel drive, XLT Lariat with 21,000 miles on it. I'm going to trade that truck. I might be the service writer, but I'm going to get that truck.
Absolutely, man.
All of a sudden, the service writer job, after about 2 days, this guy's thinking, I'd like to be a salesman doing this for a living, just selling these cars I find.
That's right. We're finding more and more, Tim, that very progressive dealers have a, air quotes, sales staff in the service lane. Not just, as a punishment for a couple hours each morning,
That's right.
but as a legitimate source of revenue. Because, it's all happening right there,
What's
man.
the best way to get management buy-in on putting a salesman in the service lane? Having a used car manager sell service a week?
Amen, brother.
He comes back from that and goes,
Oh, my goodness.
Everybody here needs to do this.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yep.
It forms a whole new mindset.
Yeah.
And when you start building a storybook with the knowledge of how to build it
Right.
from the actual experience in the service lane,
Right.
it makes life a whole lot easier.
I couldn't agree more. I think you're spot on with that, man.
I did a GM 20 group 2 months ago, and I said, guys, when was the last time you personally held a used car sales meeting? And you always got the one or two that go, I do it every week.
Right.
I
Yeah.
walked over and sat down and said, would you enlighten us? He said, what? And all the others are smiling and
Right.
laughing.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting by the monitor. I said, I want to know, I'd like some new material Please. They're going, go do it, Craig. Go up there and show us what you did.
Yeah.
They don't do that.
No, of course not.
They complain. They buy the programs. They
Right.
pay the fees every month.
Right.
And they experience the same problems everybody else experienced.
Yes, sir.
Dale Pollock is a genius.
I'd say so, probably.
And he, in the very beginning, called me in the very beginning before it was ever a product. And we discussed this thing at depth. Dale is one of those guys that designed something that works if you work it,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, I do.
And his intention was to make this whole transition smooth. And I agree 100-fold.
Right. You can't pick and choose from.
But no, you cannot.
You're either in or out, right?
And a lot of those things get misinterpreted. And I hear them through feedback to me. You know, well, we're a big auto dealer, and I don't like this, and I don't like that, and I don't like this. That's what is the whole underlying deal, you know?
Right.
That's like riding on a train. You're going to go through some cities you don't like. Just close your damn eyes. You know?
Yeah.
But our industry today is very simple. Look at the circle. If half the people in this country are buying from each other current to 6 years old, now the beacon score on those people is higher.
Yep.
How do you find out how true that is? How do you can't do what I do for a living and not have factual backup, because you're going to get,
Right.
Craig, when you train used car manager and you step up in front of that room,
Yeah.
you better have on Cavalier, because they coming after your ass if you ain't right.
Yeah, you got to be real.
And how do we do it? Go to your bank. For you GMs and dealers listening to this podcast, go to your bank. It doesn't matter whose deals they were, and say, would you please pull from dealer discount 60 days of current to 6-year-old non-highline used cars you finance for walk-in customers. Without F&I, give me an average advance. Then do Highline and give me an average advance.
All right, I'm with you.
Then go to dealer discount and give me 2 months of dealer contracts left in less any, and just one advance, pure raw advance,
Right.
on regular and Highline.
Right.
And you've got an $1,800 gap. That means that no matter what's going on in our world, the lender's not aware of that, dealer's not aware of it, and F&I is not taking full advantage of history to eliminate the mystery. You know, this lender, if a used car deal is going bad, it's going bad 90 days. This lender not only buys deals, he has to collect this stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a two-sided game. You got to be able to justify the worth of the product to get the advance.
Yeah.
I.e., with a history, there is no mystery.
Right.
Use the customer's input
Yeah.
that traded the vehicle to help you sell it.
Yeah. I think I've seen, you would know better than I, but when my first used car management position, it was the very first thing I did was I invited every single lender, whether it was a small mouse house or whomever, and out to lunch, whatever, to form a relationship with them, because I felt it was my job to get that, to assist the F&I department in getting that advance and getting deals bought and so forth. I don't see that happening much anymore, man, where the used car managers really digging in. Again, they're buyers and recondition artists, and that's about it. So it's kind of unfortunate. Let's totally switch gears here. I want to talk about something that's interesting to me, because it was part of my early education career, and that's ASTN. Because a lot of people listening don't have a. It's like, what the hell is he talking about, man? What was that? If you would, take us through when was the first time that you were on ASTN? Would you say?
The AS10 kicked up, I think it was 1992, and the first three people on the ASTN program shoot
Right.
was, of course, they're all beamed into a television in a new car store.
Right.
Was myself, Clint McGee, and Tom Stuker.
Right.
And Tom and I wound up about 3 months later. We had our own shows.
Right.
Mine was called Used Car Management.
Right.
And I shot it once a week. I did live once a month.
Right.
ASTN was a catalyst for what you're doing now. And it actually, when you shot live, you were live like we are right now. You just kind of, whatever happened.
Yeah.
I had call-ins, so I was getting questions.
Right.
If it were a pre-done shoot where you came in and shot it, they solicited questions.
Right.
And then the lady in programming, and Joe Lascota,
Yeah.
would sit down and go, okay, we got 15 overaged inventories, 8 service departments. Tim, these are your 2 hot topics right here. So that's what I would do. And it was, looking back on it now, it was Hollywood for octane and asphalt, baby.
Right. So who owned that? Who owned it?
Carl Westcott, he was a dealer. He
Yeah.
had a Pontiac store in
Yeah.
Dallas.
And how did that get broadcast to the dealers? I forget exactly how that
it
went.
was satellites.
It was satellite, right?
Yeah, it was.
Right.
Man, talk about technology.
Right, man.
This
We're talking about 30 years ago, or right? No.
when was 92? It was over in 98.
Oh, is that right? It only had a 6-year run.
Yeah.
I scheduled my sales meetings around that thing, man.
They had a full bank. It was great. But by that time, IT was really, really coming in.
Yeah, the
to
internet
play.
was coming in.
And you could get an internet deal.
Right.
There were 2 or 3 other people.
Right.
Plus, Carl had an opportunity to sell it to a company that wanted to do an ASTN format for police departments.
Oh, really?
So that's really what happened.
I'll be darned. I think Grant got his. Didn't he get his start on ASTN or no?
He was
somewhere
working.
along that time.
Grant was working for Tom Stuker back then.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Tom told me a story. I've known Tom for quite a while, and he's a character, man.
Yeah.
I tell you what, very seldom in the car business can someone actually claim to. Most of everything that I say, or most that we all say, is stolen from somebody. Stuker might be ground zero with those phone scripts. I'm not quite sure that there was anybody. Are you at home or at work? Who should I ask for? What I call? And the number there is. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, it's like I was running a Cadillac Olds AMC Jeep Renault dealership in the early 80s when he had a couple of his people roll up. And long story, they get out. The guy looked like a model. The girl looked like a model. And it was like, I had like 3 buffers before you were able to get to me. And so they got to me. And they come in with the pitch, here's who we are. And I said, yeah, okay, great. But I'm the best phone trainer in the world, and we're okay. We don't need you, right? So beat it. Basically, I was a little nicer than that. Next morning, they come rolling back up, and I'm going, what the hell? And just the girl comes back, right? Beautiful, by the way.
Of
course. She comes in. I said, look, I hate to be rude, but, it's like I told you yesterday. She said, and she had 3 cassette tapes. She said, I understand. Just when you get a chance, play these. We went ahead and called your dealership last night. Just you might want to take a listen to those. And $10,000 later, man, I'm signing.
That's right.
Like it
That's exactly
was a
right.
nightmare. So at any rate, So Tom got his start there. So it was you, Tom, and who else? The third name you mentioned?
Clint McGee.
Oh,
That
Clint
was
McGee.
Go Incorporated.
Damn, man, he was. I mean, I think Cooper probably learned from McGee, didn't he?
He did.
Right?
Clint was way, way, way ahead of his time.
Sure was.
He was. I'm very blessed. He liked me. And he called me one day. He said, I was just at the General Motors Training Academy in Warren, Michigan,
Right.
and they want to add used car management as a curriculum
Oh, really?
to their dealer son and daughter school, and I recommended you teach it so when they call you, you get an idea of what it is. So I flew up to Warren and I met with them, and they had a graduating class every 3 months. And before they graduated, I had to do a 2-day up there
Nice.
to put them through that segment of their day and grade them.
Oh, really?
If they didn't have the little grade for me thing on there, I mean,
Right.
it was a pretty cool deal for me. You
Yeah,
know?
I would say.
And Clint was responsible for me getting that,
Right.
and I will always remember his kindness. He was there the first day that I walked into GM. Now this is a huge stage,
Yeah.
beautiful auditorium.
Right.
They're out there introducing me, and I'm standing back here talking to Clint. I said, "You ever get nervous?" He looked at me. He said, "Look, boy, if you know what you're doing, you go out there and do it. If you don't, get your ass out that door."
Fact.
And walked off. And here I am, me, and General Motors in Detroit.
I can relate. I know what you're saying.
It's an interesting day.
Yeah.
But the funnest deal was about 6, 7 years ago. Tom Stuker and I and Jim Siegler were on stage together at the Australian Dealer Association in Sydney. Now, that was fun.
I can't even imagine
that
man.
was,
Oh, my goodness.
it was absolutely hilarious. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But back in those days, Craig, as you well know, this was not an entity that OEM wanted to control all of it.
Yeah.
And as I alluded to you earlier, I wanted to be a student of the business. So I started talking about what happened to OK used cars, what happened to A1 used cars. You know, there was a reason for that because I'd gone back and studied this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It had a purpose. The purpose was to bring value. Secondly, in other words, somebody bought a new Ford. When it came back, a person buying it wasn't just buying a car, they were buying a Ford A1 pre-owned.
Gotcha.
So it had a solid, so all of a sudden, I did that NAD, all of a sudden I get a call Monday from BMW. They said, "Tim, can you do a certified program for us?" So I went to Montvale and met with Tom Knighton, who later became one of my best friends ever. And we met with Dr. Cromer, the president of BMW US. He said, "We don't know anything about this." I'm being honest with you. We don't.
That's good.
Tom was a sales manager in a dealership in Deese, and that's why we want him to be your liaison. But what are we trying to accomplish here? I said 2 things. Number one, this world turns on residual values. He said, "You don't have to say anything else to me." That's what he said. He said, "If y'all are designing a program, which I'm going to see anyway, so within 2 years I'm doing. I started ground zero with Lexus, launched their certified, needless to say BMWs,
No kidding.
came right back with Subaru, Southeast Toyota, Oldsmobile, which was already having
Yeah.
its problems,
Right.
Cadillac, Bentley, Audi, Volkswagen. I mean, it was like boom, everybody wanted to be in certified business.
Yep.
Well, what we taught them was build the value in the car when you trade for it.
Yep.
You sell the value of the previous service and owner when you sell it so that the car has a personality. Car's got to have a personality. If anybody thinks that's metal and they can't feel and smell it, they're in the wrong business.
Yeah. I
Well,
agree.
today's certified programs are what? They're for profit on a warranty, and nobody I have talked to really understands. You go in and go, what's CPO? Well, it has a warranty and it's backed by the fact. They don't have a clue anymore. It's sad. It is. Now, when did certified start? This is beautiful. This is beautiful. You know where it started?
No, I don't.
Studebaker.
No way.
The first certified program was called Studicare.
Get out. Seriously.
Now listen to this, Craig. This is really cool, man. Studebaker's cars new were so bad that the repossession rate and the trade-in rate was so high to others getting out of them,
Right.
and they broke.
Yeah.
So the banks decided they would only finance a certain portion of invoice on a new one, and they didn't want to finance used ones. So they came up with a deal, the warranty that followed the car, and that was the first deal. If you were a Chevy dealer, you traded for a 1-year-old Studebaker, something happened to it, you send it to the Studebaker store, they fix it.
Huh.
And that got them back into good graces, and that
Right.
was in the damn 40s.
Damn. That's interesting.
That-
I never heard that.
That's how far back it goes.
I'll be
and
darned.
when GM and Ford really got into the fight over the Thunderbird Corvette era thing,
Right.
we got to have a better mousetrap used. Here comes AOK used cars, True Value,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So these used have always played a role.
Right.
We've just forgotten what the role is.
Yeah. You know, True Car's getting into the used car business, and of course, you know, do you know Robert Hollingshead? Do you know him at all?
No.
Well, that's the Midas touch right there. He actually he's partners with Automotive HR. I mean, this guy, you know, Galves, and I mean, just this guy owns everything.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, everything, man. He's quite the guy, and a real. I've not personally met him. I only know him through Stephen Warner, the CEO of Automotive HR. Yeah, right, brilliant. Yeah. That word. You got to be careful throwing that around. That one you mentioned Dale Pollack a little bit ago. Those two guys, yeah, brilliant. No
I'm pretty
question about it.
conservative with my brilliant comment.
Yeah. Speaking of brilliance, I'll go to Ziegler. So there's no way you two knew each other. I mean, you're both from. Well, no, you're not from Jacksonville. You're originally from Columbus, Georgia, right?
Correct.
Right. That's where the accent comes from, right? I read something about you online a couple days ago, and it's something about they used the term to describe you homespun or something, you know, because of the accent and the way you come across, but it was pretty accurate. It was an interesting article about you. I forget what I was reading. It was something I Googled about you, but so you haven't been in Jacksonville like
38 years.
Oh, have you? Yeah, looks like you got a pretty nice spread down there, man. The compound, I think.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
We were very, very fortunate. Progressive Basics took off really fast. I mean, it was.
Yeah, well, you had the track record, man.
It was just. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it, but we found this place on the river that was an estate, and I have a helicopter pad right before you go on the dock.
Right.
And the reason that I've never had a helicopter, this is kind of funny. Now, well, it ain't funny, but it's kind of different,
Yeah.
is the estate was for sale because the surgeon had put his whole family in the helicopter going to Tampa to burn the steakhouse, crashed, and they all died.
No way.
So I said, no, we're not going to get a damn helicopter, but I got an airplane. So I counter leased with Regal Boats a 421 Golden Eagle. We had a pilot.
Huh.
He dropped me off,
Yeah.
hit a guide wire and died.
Get the hell out
And
of
I
here.
said, I'm commercial from this point forward. I'm not going to own any more airplanes. I damn sure ain't going to buy a helicopter.
Dude,
And I'm loving Amtrak. And the day after I said I love Amtrak, one crashed.
no shit. Are
I
you
said,
kidding
know what?
me?
There's a message in here somewhere.
Tim, that's funny. I mean, that's not funny, but it's horrible. But well, wow, what a line of events. That's crazy.
Let me tell you a funny thing. That this is really, really funny. It really is. When things were really, really hot and heavy, probably 2010. I mean, it was smoking. Okay. And I'd get 2 or 3 calls a week to do 20 groups. And it gotten to a point I was having a hard time. So, because I've spoken to most every 20 group at least once in the country.
Right.
So I get called.
I enjoy those, don't you?
I do.
I enjoy.
I like 'em.
Those people are there
To
intent on being better, which I can really appreciate.
That's right.
It's I enjoy speaking at 20 groups.
They're
Great.
loose. They're open. They want you to be there.
Correct. You're exactly right.
But I had one in Aspen. Now, this is in the early winter, and this was one of those ski trip 20 group things.
Yeah.
And no, we're in Vail. And in that beautiful hotel right there on the square, and the snow and then the ice and the, it was just a beautiful deal. I took my wife, and it was a NADA 20 group. And I went down, and I paid no attention to the board. First one up I saw was NADA room 23.
Mm-hmm.
Opened the door, stuck my head in. I said, Jim Prohaska. I said, Jim, I'm here. He goes, come on in. I go in, Tim Deese, blah, 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 blah. About 30 minutes later, Jim West. Tim, what are you doing in here? You're supposed to be in my 20 group down the hall. Prohaska had figured it out.
Oh no, kid! Are you kidding
So
me?
they came and got me out of one and took me to the other one. I thought that was pretty cool, you know?
Yeah, turn expense slips in for both of those. I think, right?
That's right.
You bet, man. That's a great story, dude.
Of course, I was drinking then too, brother. That was in the career.
Yeah, this is difficult. Drinking.
No, I wasn't, because I quit in 02. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was sober and did that.
Drinking and the car business is a tough deal, man. Tough deal. I can remember. I'm sure you can remember too. In the, those times in the early mid '80s, and I swear, and this is going to be an exaggeration, but I swear, I'm running this big Chevy store, and then I got hired away to run this Cadillac Old store, and 75% of my salespeople are doing cocaine all day, every day. I mean, it's like, about the only good thing that came of that used car inventory got switched out twice a day, man.
That's right.
They're out moving them, moving them cars like bumper cars out there. It cost me about $4,000 in damage every time they go out and move cars. But man, those cars got moved. They couldn't sit around. But man, there was coke everywhere. It was crazy.
I
don't
am
know how we
so
think.
glad that I missed the drug bus.
Yeah.
That one I never rode. I was too drunk to really think about drugs. But
Yeah, that's a good thing. Sort of.
if I'd have ever found them, I'd have been right in there in the middle of it, I'm sure.
It's troublesome, man. Troublesome.
That one I don't know.
It was horrible. Because that cocaine's the big lie, man. I tell you what, when you first start doing it, and I had my run of it, not that long, thank God, but you think you're smarter, better looking, and
I had all that with booze, and it was legal.
Yeah. The problem with Coke was, damn, I could work 18 hours a day, man. It was like, no problem. Get up the next day, another 18, and, just bang, bang, bang. But then it started affecting you, and it's like, oh, wow, this is a big lie, man. This stuff ain't, this is bad. I got to get out of this one. I know drinking, but this Coke will kill me for sure. The drinking, 50-50. The Coke will kill me for sure. And then, of course, drinking the way we probably drank, going to kill us or kill somebody. Thank God we got out of that. That's for sure. That's a son of a gun, isn't it, man? That decision to finally quit is so. It's just. It's hard to express what finally, and we each have our own bottoms, but to really make that decision where, okay, man, I'm done. I give up. I can't. There's just no way I can do this on my own. I just can't do it. And to be able to turn it over to, as they say, a higher power, however you understand it, is key. It saved my life, man. It's like, and when I first started going to meetings, I happened to pick this 24-hour, 7-day week joint, and I went to just hundreds of meetings, like hundreds in the first 90 days, like hundreds, and they were hard asses, man. Because I'd come in all suited up, they called me Mr. Fancy Pants. Like, go clean ashtrays, dude.
Right.
I'm like, who are you talking to? I'm going to clean ashtrays? Yeah, or go get drunk. Doesn't matter to us.
That's right.
Get the F out, right? Or you're going to put away chairs. I'm going to put away chairs? Yeah, or go get drunk. Doesn't matter to us. Because John Barleycorn's out there doing push-ups, man, just ready to kick your ass. So
right.
You're either in or you're out. But if you're in, you're going to listen to us, sit down, shut up. You got nothing to say. And do what you're told. And for guys like us, that's a little challenging. It's like, all right, well, my way hasn't worked, so maybe I should listen to somebody else. So saved my life.
Last night I rode the midnight train, got up this morning feeling the pain. Mm-hmm. Gotta go, makes no difference. Remember it well. But you're right about that, making that decision. I was in the shower, and I said, I'll never take another drink and make another excuse for a bottle of whiskey as long as I live.
Yeah.
And that was it for me. I, too, 90 meetings, 90 days, same thing, too.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Were you married at the time?
Oh, yeah. I've been married to the same beautiful woman for 47 years.
God bless her, man.
And the first time I met her, she graduated from Northwestern. And she was in her last year.
So she's smarter than you.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, she's a Mensa.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so is my oldest daughter.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know what a college looks like. But I asked her to dance.
Yeah.
She said, I don't want to be rude, but I don't know any hillbillies. And I especially don't want to know you. I said, okay. That's how I started. I said, I'll get back at her.
That was your first sale. And a good one, right? That was a good sale.
It worked out well.
A little closer to the mic, Tim, please. Thanks.
Worked out well. I'm very proud of her.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
She is up in Lake Geneva getting the summer house opened up for the summer and the grandkids, and I'm going up in 2 weeks for
That's
for
beautiful.
the summer.
That's beautiful there, right?
Yeah, it is. I love it up there.
Yeah, and you got a summer place, or
Yeah.
That's nice. Right on the lake.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
assuming.
yeah. It's nice. It really is. And she's from Chicago, so my oldest daughter lives up there.
Right.
So we have our 3 grandsons. My wife has her sisters, and so forth and so on. So
Right.
and I've got some old dealer friends right around there that I've had for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And it's, of course, I have those most anywhere I go. I'm very blessed, as you are.
Sure, I mean, a lot of people know you, man. That's for sure. Those ASTN days. Those were. Do you know Mark Tewart? Do you know Mark? That name ring a bell
No.
with you?
What do you do?
Mark's sales trainer is still to this day. He's younger than you and I. But I think Mark was on ASTN for a while, and now he's on. He does a lot of work on CBT, which is kind of today's answer, I guess, to ASTN. Frankly,
Jim Fitzpatrick
Yeah.
was a Toyota dealer in South Florida when he and his used car manager came through Progressive Basics Used Car School. And when he started CBT, he invited me up to do a little deal with him, and I did. And Jim and his wife, Bridget, are as truly down-to-earth professional as anybody I've ever known.
They are. I would agree. I haven't had a lot. I went down there, flew down there, and did a show in the studio. They just got a new studio, I think, but in their. Well, this is 2 years ago, probably. I flew down there in their old studio, which was real nice. Excuse me. But prior to that, she interviewed me. What was it? It was some conference right before NADA several years ago. But she's just nicest person in the world, man. Just nice, calm interview, no agenda, Because some people, when they interview you, they're looking to get you. You know what I'm saying?
Most of them.
Yeah, I'd say.
I did a TV special with Dan Rather.
You did?
Yeah.
No, well, tell me about that.
And that I got a call from, I don't remember if he was NBC or CBS. I don't remember, but I got a call from their news programming director, and I flew up to Manhattan and met with them, and they said, we want to do a special on flood cars. I said, okay. They said Katrina has left tens of thousands of these cars, and they're showing up all over the place. I said, okay, it's going to happen. They all can't go to Mexico. She said, how do you tell if a car has been a flood car? I said, number one, when guys deal in that stuff, they've got to wash a salvage title, because that's the only way they're going to get a flood car.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Now, once they wash it, they got to wash the car. Now, these are not idiots. These are some of the smartest guys on this planet when it comes to selling misrepresented cars. What do you think you'd look at? Well, I don't know. You'd unscrew the cap on the tire and look in. I said, no, that car's in the water and they're going around all the time.
Yeah.
Well, pull the hubcap and look. That's the same drill.
Right.
I said, no, that's not how you do it. Not at all. These guys know how to do it all. For you to be able to say on a title wash car out of Katrina, we would have to walk that car individually to make a decision on whether or not that car was flooded. I have seen these cars. These cars are completely back together. They lower the exhaust and the muffler and clean above it. These guys aren't going to prison over a car. Now, if you want to go to some of these chop shops on Jerome Avenue or Cicero in Chicago, we'll go up there and find you some.
Right, yeah.
They'll be dirty.
Right, yeah.
But when you see them at Mannheim and Odessa,
Right.
you ain't going to catch them.
Yeah.
You're not going to do it.
We had, in the late 80s, I got recruited by a company that'll, oh, no, it's all right. You remember Peter Bond?
Oh, yeah, I remember Peter.
Yeah. Well, I went to work for Peter for a short period of time. Actually, I was recruited by a guy by the name of Eric Clawberg. Do you know Eric? By then, Eric was kind of his fair-haired child. He was real young, and So Peter, what was the name of his company? Damn, I forget. But at any rate, the bottom line is we'd go into stores, put in a process, get 50% or whatever, increase the business, blah, blah, blah. It was lots of money.
Yeah, it was. That was a bad deal.
Yeah.
And the reason for that was nobody took into account those used cars were going to lose money.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Chargebacks on that F&I.
Correct. Yeah, we only got, it was pretty one-sided. So
I cannot. Peter Bond's got to be the best salesperson on this planet because he pulled it off.
oh yeah, he did. Peter made a fortune. I mean, a fortune.
Yes, he did.
And so that brought me out to New Jersey. Actually, I was so Eric left Peter and started his own deal, and we did a couple deals in Missouri, and then and I was still drinking at the time, and so Eric says, we got a couple great opportunities in New Jersey, man, right outside of Atlantic City. I said, Dwayne, stop it right there. So you think it's a really good idea for me? You think it's a good idea for me to, I drink like an animal. I know how to count cards. If I wanted to be, I could be a professional blackjack player. I mean, I literally count cards. I said, so you think it's a really good idea to send me to a city where I can drink for free, gamble, and there's women everywhere? I said, that's probably not a good idea, dude. No, you'll be okay. So long story short, I go. So we took over this Ford dealership, and he was right on the bay. They're now out of business. But they were right on the bay. And literally every storm, one or two aged used cars would find their way right into that bay. Just don't know how it happened, but man, them cars. I'd come in the morning and go, Craig, we got a car in the water. I said, what are you talking about? We got a car in the water. I said, they're pushing cars in the freaking ocean in the bay.
That's right.
I said, yeah. I said, oh, okay, man. Well, whatever, ain't my store, so whatever. But man.
Well, we should do a story one day, Craig, on nothing but old war stories for anybody that wanted to hear war stories. But
yeah,
what you're talking about, Atlantic City,
yeah,
when the first public company started, Penske started buying this stuff.
yeah,
He bought a big group in New York City, in Jersey City, New York City. They called us in to set up their used car format, which we did, which they still follow.
oh, I'll be darned.
And there was a group in Jersey, one of the groups he bought, like 8 stores. They had $5 million in used car inventory. So I sent all 4 of my guys to put your finger on every car.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we couldn't find $800,000 worth. So then the mission starts. So I brought John Slade, my private investigator, in. I said, number one, I want all cars that are missing, I want to see the title on them. If the title's not there, I want you to find where it got gone,
Right,
and who got it, and get the money.
right.
So one of my trainers, Frank, came back to me. He said, you ain't going to believe this. I said, what? He said, I found $300,000 worth of them cars. I said, where are they? He said, on the bank of the Hudson River in the middle of a homeless shelter because they're living in them.
Whoa.
These guys, listen to this. So you talk about all these stories about New York. This is the best one I ever heard. These guys, when they would trade for a car at the end of the month, and I mean, they were
Right.
a $1,000 car, got 8 in it.
Right.
They'd move it down over a hill down to the Hudson River,
Right.
call the junkyard. Junkyard came through the gate of the store during the day
Right.
with a hook on the deal, went down, pulled the motor, transmission, tires, whatever was good,
Right.
they got,
Right.
and left it there.
Right. It's a hotel.
It'd been like 9 used car managers following this same little protocol.
$300,000 worth?
Oh, yeah. And now this is in 2002, 2003.
Right.
And that was a lot of cars in that era.
Yeah, man.
And here they are. I mean, there's people living. They got the barrels with the fires burning.
Right.
We're looking at this, and I said, this don't happen. This is a damn TV set, man.
The other 500,000 probably were being driven by young ladies.
They
maybe?
were. They were. We had to get them all in. They wanted to know if the new guy wanted a deal. You know the thing.
Yeah. Yep. Lies and more lies, man.
I have enjoyed this, Craig.
Yeah, it's good so far, huh?
Yep.
Hey, I got a game we play. You ready to play a game? All right. This game is called Fabulous Fibs. So here's the idea behind this game. So I'm going to tell you 3 statements. One is true. The other two are fibs. They're flat out lies. So one is true. The other two are untrue. You got to pick out the one that's true. So here they are, and I'll repeat them. Number 1, Craig's best month, mine. My best month ever in the car business was 47 cars in May of 1978. Number 2, the first ever U.S. auto show was in the year 1900 in Detroit. Number 3, as of 2018, millennial unemployment rate was 12.8%. So let me go over them again. Number 1, my best month ever in the car business was 47 cars in May of 1978. Number 2, the first ever U.S. auto show was in the year 1900 in Detroit. And number 3, as of 2018, millennial unemployment was 12.8%. Which one of those 3 is true?
I'd go with the millennial one.
Woo! Nice. We have a winner. Joe Lockard, we have a winner. I'm not sure we've had a winner on the first question. You might be the first winner on the first question.
Well, that was an easy one.
Yeah? Why?
Well, I already knew how many cars you sold.
Okay.
And when I was doing all the research that I did, just because I wanted to be a student, I knew about the auto shows because it was in a lawsuit with Paris. They wanted to have it in France.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Oh, this one's good for you. All right, here's one gift. What is that? Is that a Challenger? I think that's a Challenger, isn't it? What the hell is that?
Well, I can't see it.
Shit. I think it's a Challenger. You get that? Here's another Mopar. I'm going to give you another Mopar.
I don't have any glasses.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It doesn't even say on there what these are.
Can I borrow your glasses?
Here's that's a Charger. Well, these are for distance, so they ain't going to help you much. That's a challenge. That's a Charger there. But you get both of those. Now here, it gets better. So now we go double or nothing if you want to play. This is a layup for you, man. You will hurt yourself physically if you don't get this one right. So double or nothing. Who is the winningest coach in Auburn football history? The winningest coach in Auburn football history.
Pat Dye.
No, sir.
Chug Jordan.
Shug Jordan. 176. Like 176 and like 50 or something. Like some ridiculous record.
He was my next door neighbor when I was a dealer in Auburn.
Is that right?
Sure was.
I couldn't find it when researching him. I couldn't find where the nickname Shug came up from.
Shug. Sugar.
Shug. Oh, is that what it is?
He was a sweetheart, man.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay. All right.
Shug Jordan.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to give you something else, too. What else am I going to give you here? That's a cool looking car too. And you got to make sure you're going to get an Automax Excellent hat too.
All right.
Get one of
I
these
can
hats.
do that.
See these hats here, these are weird. It's obviously it's misspelled. So what the story on that is this, that so we had a company email. We were talking about something. I got what do we have? 33 people total. So there was I forget what it was about. But my son Joe, who's the director of operations right now, and a minority partner, him and Ernie Kasperwitz is the first trainer I brought on 21 years ago. He's also a minority partner and general manager. Without these two guys, I'm screwed. I mean, I'm so blessed, man.
We gotta have them.
It's amazing, man. The people that work with us, the team that I have, is just, it boggles my mind how amazing they are. And 70% of the people that work at Automax have been there 10 years or more, which makes me feel good.
Says all you need to be said.
Yeah, it makes me feel good. So at any rate, so Joe comes up with this, I don't know, in this email, he said automaxilent or something like that. So I said, oh, man, I love that term. Instead of excellent or awesome, kind of put the two words together. So I wrote it out, and my phone auto-corrected to that spelling. So I added a hashtag, and it became a thing. So I said, oh, shit. So I had 1,000 hats made. We've been giving these things away for years now. It's like, well, whatever. You know, it's kind of, but it's, I don't know, it's kind of cool. So that's, so let me ask you something. So, I mean, it's either Auburn or Alabama, right? I mean, it's like, there's no, like, you ain't going to see a Auburn girl marry a Alabama guy.
No.
I mean, that ain't going to happen, right? It's like, it'd be like, because I'm from Ohio, it'd be like somebody from Ohio State marrying somebody from the state up north, right? It's like, you know, the old Woody, you ever heard the old Woody Hayes thing? He ran out of gas in Michigan and pushed his car across the Ohio line because he wanted to buy no gas in the state up north. So, how did that start? What's the big deal between Auburn and Alabama? I mean, they hate each other.
Well,
man.
I'm one of them, so I can attest to that.
That's right. So
the main problem is let me give you the best example I can give you, Craig. I went to the Auburn-Alabama game with a very good friend of mine, Bill Russell, who owns Bill Russell Ford in Columbus, Mississippi.
okay,
And Bill grew up in Birmingham. His daddy was Lonnie Russell Ford. Went to Alabama, has had these tickets forever.
Yeah.
So he invited Karen and I to go to the Auburn-Alabama game this year, so we did.
right.
That was the first time I'd ever been in Tuscaloosa for an Auburn-Alabama game. Now, let me tell you what I never want to do again. It's something that you will never, ever, ever forget. It's a sound.
A sound.
It's the sound of 80,000 people screaming, "Row Tide," through 3 teeth. You will never forget that sound as long as you live. And I don't want to hear it again.
We just lost all our Alabama listeners.
Yeah, well, you probably got more Auburn listeners to Alabama anyway.
There you go.
One thing about Alabama is everybody hates them.
That's funny stuff. Yeah, it's like they're the New York Yankees of college football. I mean, it's like gotten to be it's ridiculous, man.
Well, in our conference, West, Southeast Conference West,
Right.
you got Auburn, Alabama, Georgia,
It's crazy.
LSU, all in the same dadgone deal.
It's insane.
I mean,
There's no other way. What are they going to do, though? There's no other way to, I don't know how else they could structure the damn thing, really.
Well, all 4 of them been trying to get out into East,
I guess.
and East doesn't want us
Right.
because we dominate it.
Yeah, well, you could end up losing 2 games and still play for the national championship, right?
Absolutely.
Either one of those teams you just mentioned, they could end up with 2 losses and still play for the national championship because they're that much better than everybody else. It's crazy, and then you got the second tier of Ohio State and whoever else. But it's going to be interesting to see what Ohio State does this year without Urban Meyer, or maybe not this year, but ongoing. But this new coach is supposed to be pretty sharp. We'll see. Because Meyer was one hell of a recruiter, man. There's Nick Saban and then Meyer and then everybody
That's right.
else.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, because it's and that's really what it's all about. It's about getting the best kids. I saw Saban spoke at, where the heck was I? It was at a conference at it was an automotive conference. What the heck was it? Driving sales. I don't think it was Digital Dealer. I think it was Driving Sales, and Saban was one of the speakers. So and we're like front row, and I'm all pumped up. I'm thinking this is going to be awesome, and this, because I heard some figures thrown around like 60, 70, 80 grand to speak in like 20 minutes, and it was like not good. It was just. I was expecting some, Tony Robbins or I don't know what I was expecting more than I got because he was very, the way he is, just kind of, and it was very unimpressive. So, but there's a real hatred there between Auburn and Alabama. That's for sure. It's interesting, man, how
it is
be so close and be so just against each other, man. It's like endless. So what's the first store you bought? What brand was it?
This was a very interesting time in my life. I was running a huge GM store in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And I had dealeritis bad. I was 28. I had 30 grand I'd saved, Karen and I had saved. And I got a call from Chrysler because General Motors didn't have a small point that would fit. They said, Auburn, Alabama, 30 grand will put you in it.
Okay.
So I went down there.
You want a water? You good?
No, I'm good. I went down there. Actually, it was 50. I had 30. And got to closing, and I slid my Friday afternoon after 2 at my request. $50,000 check. Attorney said, that's supposed to be a cashier's check. I said, it is. He said, on certified funds. I said, it said right there on the check, all this was planned by me. You took Federal Deposit Insurance Company. It is certified good funds.
Right, by the federal government.
That old dealer looked at me. He knew what I was doing. He knew I was kiting that check. He said, Tim, if this check doesn't clear Tuesday when it hits the bank, you're going to lose it all. I said, it'll clear. So I got back, and I told the bookkeeper at the time, the office manager at the time, I said, I only had 11 employees in this old Dodge store. I said, don't pay off anything. Nothing.
Gotcha.
I went SOT from day one. Took me 6 months to do the catch-up, and I got flush. And the minute I got flush, I had to do it again,
Yeah, that's interesting.
Where there's a will, there's always a way.
Yes, sir. How long did you own that store?
I had that one for 5 years. That was the one that the Honda dealer there wanted the building. Jimmy Carter was president. Prime was 22%.
That was crazy.
By the grace of God, I was even with the board.
Yeah.
I wasn't making any money, but I wasn't in the rears like most.
A little closer.
And my building equity in the building got me out of all of them. The only one I wish I'd kept was that little Mitsubishi deal. I think I would have liked to have kept that.
I'll be darned.
Because it was college town.
Yeah.
Now, Columbus, I bought a CP deal over there. It wasn't college, but it was military. It was fine.
Right.
But that little Auburn is where it all started for me.
Yeah.
I mean, That's when I got up in the morning and I had to make payroll for real, and there wasn't nobody to call and say, we need some cash and this stuff. It was me. And it really teaches you true responsibility.
Yeah. And personal responsibility is something that we're lacking a great deal in this country right now, I think. Yeah.
I had a buddy of mine in the Chrysler Credit Office in Montgomery that would call me and go, floor plan's coming tomorrow morning.
Oh, really? They tell
And
you.
we had 3 or 4 cars that we had sold that were like right around the dealership.
Right.
And I would tell the salesman, y'all go pick those cars up, pull the tags off, put them on the left.
I can remember these days. Dude, I'm totally with you.
So, well, if those 3 are service care and
Right.
let them down, let them check that bin. But then they put tags back on, take them back clean for another month, you know.
Yep.
$10,000 in those days is a lot of money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If they demanded it, it would be tough to scratch that together.
I mean, hell, this is 1979, 80.
Yeah, man.
You think $32 a day is a hard holding cost on a used car today. Could you imagine at 20% what holding costs were?
Man, I was running that Cadillac store at the time, and those interest rates were 20%. It was like, man, it was like, looking back on it, it was like, how did we sell any cars? But we sold a crap load of cars. But it was like, it was all monopoly money because people were also getting 20% on their savings account too. So
Right.
It's kind of
Right.
So it's all relative.
It was young people that were young marrieds could not stretch to those kind of payments.
Right. No, that's
They
true.
were higher than they are now on a third of the wage.
Yeah, that's fact. Right.
But the difference in then and now, Craig, they had jobs.
Yeah.
And the ones their age today aren't married and don't have.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting market now. So-called millennials or younger, they're driving, waiting longer to get their driver's licenses, not driving, not buying a car at all. It's a strange situation. My controller's oldest daughter's 30. She has a huge job with Nike. I mean, a big job with Nike, makes a lot of money. She's 30 years old. Calls me, what was it, Saturday, at a dealership, right? Long story short, I said, look, for one thing, you're not going to buy a car and go 84 months. First car she's ever bought, 30 years old. And I mean, could pay cash for a car. I mean, like, makes big money. First time she's ever been in a car dealership at 30 years old. And I think we're seeing more and more of that. Our business is changing. However, in saying that, in my opinion, what I've seen when you really look at the total package, everything, and we bitch, and especially if you're online a lot, and I check, I'm pretty, my whole company is very involved in social media. It's one of the biggest ways we get new business and retain customers, frankly, is our online presence. And I see everybody bitching about this and bitching about that, and I'm so sick of it, man. In my opinion, there's never been a better time to be in the car business. I mean, stuff in the old days was fun, and we got away with just short of murder, but and we had a good time and we made money and all that. But right now, with the technology and with the so-called transparency and so forth, it's a great time to be in the car business, man. People accumulating debt going to college right now. The average student loan debt's $38,500 and some dollars. It's $1.3 trillion total. Why some of these men and women are not going to trade schools and not getting, we talked about technicians a little bit earlier. I mean, man, you got a year or 2 years of trade school. You come out with little or no debt, right? Or the dealer's willing to pick up that debt. You walk right into a job, you know, there ain't no putting a resume together. It's like, you know how to turn a wrench, quote unquote, bang, start Monday, right? And those can develop into what? You know, pretty quickly, 50, 60, 70, 80, depending on where you're at in the country, $100,000 a year jobs, man.
Right off the bat.
Right from jump. And I don't know why it's going away from that. I think you're going to see, and what a lot of dealers are doing, a lot of our dealers are doing, are starting to develop a quote-unquote farm system. They're bringing in these young kids and locking them in. I mean, locking them in and slowly developing them, paying for their tools, paying for their schooling, you know, building them into A-level or master techs and really keeping them there. Because it's to hire a master tech right now, and it's difficult because they're not moving in a toolbox for $5 an hour, $10 an hour more. You got to make a strong play for them. And you better get real with those people, or you're never going to get them. You're just not going to.
Let me, I'm glad you brought that up. This is something you may want to, since you're now involved in recruiting and placement of these service personnel, here is a very important fact that our dealers don't look at. We lost 80% of our customer loyalty on service and parts over the last 30 years to where we are now.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Now, if you go to Walmart to get your car serviced, if you go to Tire King or one of these places who do everything, and you look at their average labor rate per RO, they run about 3.6 hours per customer pay. Our dealerships run about 1.8. Now, why is that?
Well,
why is that? And I know the answer to that question. You know the answer to that question. I just don't go there often with it because I'm a pre-owned guy. But it never fails if I'm in a group. They go, Tim, explain this 3.2, 1.8. What do we do to get there? And I was in, one of the best GMs I've ever met is a guy named Mike Poston. And he and I took his service director one day to a quick change place that did tire rotation and brakes, okay?
Yep.
1995, all cars up to 6 quarts.
Right. Gotcha.
Just want that deal. We had a trade-in. We were in a trade-in, so it was no,
Right.
all three of them.
Right.
He said, okay, that is not a problem. Let me get it on the rack, and I will be right back in and let you know exactly where we are. He said, no, I just want to pull in and get the oil filter. I said, okay, not a problem.
Right.
He fills out his paperwork, he comes back, and he goes, the right rear tire is low. I would rotate these tires, and I would keep an eye on that left rear, but I would rotate them now because it's something you want to prevent a problem with.
Yep.
I bought it.
Yep.
You know?
Yes, sir.
We get back to the dealership, and I said, I don't know about you guys, but I learned something.
Yep.
This is a guy that looked before he jumped.
Yes. And he asked.
And, yeah.
You know, he shared information, and I would suggest you do it. And so what do? You end up doing it.
Our guys have a base salary as service writers that's so high that their incentive is not there
Yeah.
on the bonus scale.
Right.
These guys on these other deals
Right.
aren't.
Right.
They have to produce.
They're paid on the upsell.
And, I mean, we went completely away from what we created.
Yeah. Well, it's so important, man. You know, to regardless of the volume of the shop, obviously the more volume, the more substantial this example becomes. But for moving a dealer from 1.8 to 2.2 hours per customer, it's monumental. The net is insane money, man.
It's more net than they make now
Yeah.
on 1 hour.
Yeah,
And they're still below average.
right. And that's not even counting parts gross. You know, it's
Parts.
right. You know, it's amazing.
How do you sell parts?
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
the guy buying the parts,
Right.
how long can I float the dealer?
Yeah.
So then
Right.
goes the parts manager. I'd love to have your account. Are you 90 days net? Yes. I never repaid anybody on receivables. I never let a part or a car go out of my shop unless the money was in the bank.
Gotcha.
At the end of the month, I never had rewinds
Right.
because when we closed the month,
Right.
if the check had not cleared the bank, the salesman, the manager, nobody got paid on that deal. It went into the next month.
Right. Makes sense.
Parts, they could have the greatest month they want, but that part ain't going out the door. I don't care if it's on a 90-day receivable. It's not leaving there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want his business.
Mm-hmm.
The percentage I would lose on the 90-day net account is greater than losing the thing altogether.
Yeah. Yes.
But why don't these GMs today look at parts and what they can do to make parts productive? They don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I guess that's the answer to your own question, right? Why? Because they don't know. So how do you know what you don't know? How do you figure that out? If you're a dealer, you're a real general manager, really running the show. How do you know what you don't know?
That's beautiful. I love it, Craig, because that's how I started a meeting.
Right.
A salesman doesn't know what a salesman doesn't know until you tell him. You don't know what you're telling him until somebody told you.
Yes, sir.
You've got to ask the question, or you've got to take the time to give the answer to groom these people up. You hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah.
A GM, and a dealer in a lot of cases, where this parts department is concerned, or body shop,
Right. That's a real tricky.
yeah, they don't want to call their guys in and go, explain to me exactly how this process works.
Right.
Because they don't want to give up the fantasy that they know all about everything. You know,
Yes,
I
sir.
was the same way.
Yeah, I agree. As a GM, I've been through. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I would ignore it. The best, the most effective training development I've ever experienced, and something we did for years when I was when I first started Automax, and then prior to that when I was on the road, is we'd have to get buy-in from the veteran salespeople. And they're only going to listen to so much, man. And they think vendors are full of baloney. It's like, well, if you can't do it, you might as well teach it, right? That kind of mentality, and it's just all the hurdles. So what we would do was we would ask for a situation. So, Tim, what situation in the last 2, 3, 4 days have you had where you couldn't put a deal together, right? Oh, well, I had a couple the other day, and, he couldn't do anything without his wife being there at the dealership, and we tried to do this and that and another thing. Okay. Has anyone else, so I'd write that on the board. Has anyone else in the room had that similar situation? Well, of course, everybody's had the similar. Okay, so I'm going to go around the room right now and ask each one of you, right, if you've had that, go ahead and tell us about your situation and tell us one thing that you've done that's worked more than once. It's got to have worked more than once, right? So you'd go to the first guy. Yeah, I had a situation similar to that last week, and at the end of the demo drive, I knew a couple times that he couldn't do anything without the wife's approval or the significant other, whatever that might happen to be, and I said to them, well, what are you going to do if they say no? You're not allowed to do it. Well, I'm going to buy it anyway. Okay, that's what I thought. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. So I'd write that on the board and then go around the room and get everybody's answer. And so what ended up happening was they ended up training each other. And they actually have more respect for their peer group than they do for you or I, the trainer.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, it worked, Tim. It was amazing. It would be like, yeah, I like that, man. Dude, that's cool. I like that. And they would never say that. And you could say the same damn thing 100 times.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? And then it's all, oh, that's just a vendor bullshit, you know. But when they're hearing it from their peers, it's like they're totally bought in. And so they were holding their own sales meeting. I was just there to facilitate it, make sure it kept going in a right direction.
You just took me way back in time. In my first year of Progressive Basics, as I told you earlier, we recruited, hired, and trained salesmen. That's what we were doing.
Right.
When I found out nobody trained used car managers.
Right.
So we would sit down with the dealer the week before I came in. When I brought the ad in, we were going to run and talk with the managers. And I said, guys, this is up to you, but I'm going to recommend that you do this. We're trying to hire 6. That's the magic number. You have 9 salesmen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we hire these 6 people, Friday morning, I'm going to be turning them over in a sales meeting. All 9 of the ones you got are going to try to run them off.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take 6 salesmen who are currently here, call them in now, and say, gang, we're going to hire 6 new people. Now, we're going to pay them a salary for 2 months. They're going to be bolted to you. You're going to get half the commission they would have made on every deal they do because you're the one walking them through this.
Right.
The other half of their commission is going to offset their salary.
Mm-hmm.
Now, after the sales meeting, which you will sit with him, you will have lunch with him, you'll live with him for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
This gave a salesman know-it-all
Right.
a way, number one, to complain about something beneficial. And the success rate I had was a whole lot greater
Yeah.
because of the buy-in.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let these other guys screw with them.
Right. Yeah. That's right. They wouldn't let anyone else screw with their protege, as
right.
it might be. Yeah, and it builds up their ego to a certain extent as well. You got to do something. It's in our opinion, and it's not opinion anymore. It's actually raw data right now, that the turnover rate for new salespeople, which is obscene, depending on what number you want to believe, 75% NDDA says, or 76%, whatever, happens sometimes within minutes or hours of the time that they walk in that building and actually start. Oh, shoot. Tim, really today's your first day? Are you sure I told you to start on a Tuesday? Oh, man. It was the worst possible day for me. Well, all right, let's do this. Hey, Jim, come on over here. This is Tim. Go get him all his paperwork, will you? And have him sit over there. And then they bring out this stack of paperwork for those listening to iTunes and so forth. This huge stack of paperwork with I-9s and employee handbook and all the stuff that they don't read or sign. Then some outdated Joe Verdi crap.
Right.
You got to blow the dust off of it. Somewhere during the course of the day, I mean, it's like nothing happens, right? So they go home, and whoever they're going home to, mom, dad, brother, sister, wife, husband, wife, whatever. The first thing out of their mouth was, well, how was your first day?
Absolutely it is.
Well, it sucked. And I'm not so sure. I think we should leave my resume online for a while. I'll grab a few paychecks, but I'm gone, man. And they've mentally quit like hours into the first day, where there is the technology where you can electronically onboard them. They can do all that paperwork at home. That's what Automotive HR does. And then when they come there, have a damn plan, man. Have some swag. There's crap in that parts department that's been sitting there for God knows how long. You know, a key fob or a hat, or give them some stuff. Have a box of flipping business cards. What's it going to cost? $20 instead of scratching out some. I mean, that's still done, Tim. They're still scratching out names, man, or blank cards where you got to write in your name. Come on, man. $20. If you quit in 3 days, you quit in 3 days. I'm out $20. But you know,
I never thought of that. You're right.
Let's do business the right way. Let's welcome these people into the business. It's the retention will change if you do nothing else, and then put them with someone in each department. If I got a new hire, a green pea, that green pea is going to sit with Brittany, the 19-year-old blonde at the receptionist. He's going to see how she figures into the whole thing. He or she's definitely going to spend time in that service lane attached to the hip to that service advisor. They're definitely going to spend time in that BDC. They might spend 2 or 3 days in there because I think that's so important anymore. My point is they're gonna know how everything goes together, so they have a comfort level. I mean, crap, man. You go into any hotel, the hotel you're staying at. The reason I haven't met those people, but they've been nothing but top notch to me.
They are.
Right? And I asked them on the phone, I said, let me ask you something. And Kelly, forget Kelly's last name, but she's in the sales department there. I said, how much training do you get before you're allowed to talk to a customer? She said 3 weeks. 3 weeks. At a chain hotel. 3 weeks. And what do? You expressed in the first 10 minutes of the podcast how you started, you know, and pretty much, you know, mine was the same way. There's the keys, cars, and jumper cables. Go get them, sport. You're a car salesman, right? It hasn't changed that much. Now, there's dealers doing a super job. I'm not talking about everybody. But why isn't it 100%? There's a reason that there's 76% turnover. There's a reason. And it's either a bad hire, shouldn't have hired them in the first place, you know, fire them before you hire them, or they onboarded them, and I use that term loosely, like crap, and treated them like crap. And it doesn't have to be that way. The cost to turn an employee is astronomical. I'm not telling you anything you obviously don't know. You own 6 stores. It's like it could cripple. It puts dealers out of business, flat out, in my opinion. I mean, you got to love on those people, man. You got to keep them. If you made the right hire, you never let that person go. Hey, Tim, I think I'm going to quit. You know, I'm going to go on. No, you're not quitting. What do you mean? No, you're not going to. It's not an option. You're going to stay here. What have I done wrong to where you want to leave?
I like that. What did I do wrong? Because
yeah, man.
You got to admit, Craig, and I have no problem with this, none. But we are automotive managers and dealers are the most egotistical businessmen on this planet.
We are.
That's the nature of the beast, okay?
Yes, sir. Yep.
But what you just said about, no, I don't want you to quit. I want to know what I did wrong that's going to cause you to quit.
Yep.
Well, you didn't do anything. Okay, what did one of your supervisors do?
There you go.
Because their only job is to make sure you're successful.
Yep.
That's their only job. Their job is to make sure you succeed. That's why they are a sales manager. If that is not happening, I want to know what happened that it is not happening. They'll tell you. I like that.
Yeah.
I really do.
I got to take a minute and pay some bills here. All right, so.
I have enjoyed this. I want to thank you for having me.
Well, it's been a pleasure here, man. Let me thank a few of our sponsors here real quick. First of all is Rockstar Conference, and I'll reach out to Matt on your behalf if you
that's great.
with
I'd
your
love
permission.
to. Yeah.
They're great events, man, and the speakers are top notch, just really good. but the next one's in Nashville. For those of you, go to rockstarinfo.com. I strongly urge you to attend what they're calling the tour. They're in different cities all over the country, and it's and frankly, Automax, my company, made a decision at the end of last year. We're only sponsoring one conference, and it's the Rockstar people. And we took our entire conference budget and put it into the Recruiter podcast and Rockstar because they're great people with good intentions that really want to help the automotive industry. Tacoby is another friend of the program. Man, you're talking about Facebook leads. These guys are mad geniuses. They really got this stuff down. I mean, they literally, their clients, you can't find a bad review about these people. What they're doing for dealers is just immediately. If you do what they tell you to do, they're immediately changing the volume and gross profit of your dealership. You've got to look into Tacoby.com. That's TECOBI.com. Our friends at Dealer World, Joyce Spring, Hunter Swift. Man, this organization, I've seen them grow from 2 people to, I think they're up to 30-some people right now. And they're...
How cool is that name, Craig?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Hunter Swift.
Right? You know what? I think you'd find this interesting. Troy, the owner of this company, is a good personal friend of mine. He was actually on our first podcast. He bought one of those Mercedes Sprinter vans.
Yeah.
And he has a full-time driver. And he literally travels. I mean, if it's, I think he'll drive 1,000 miles. I think anything past that he flies. But if it's within 1,000 miles, if it's a deal in North Carolina, 5 o'clock in the morning, man, he jumps in that van. He's working the whole time, and then he's face-to-face with his dealer. Now, I don't know too many guys who own big ad agencies that are face-to-face with their dealer like that,
No, I don't
man.
know any.
Right. Fact, right? They do a great job there. And then our friends at Automotive HR, it legitimately, we use them. If I knew of a better recruiting platform, trust me, I would use it. So, I mean, when they decided to be a sponsor of the Recruiter podcast, it was like, it's kind of a no-brainer because it's like it's so easy for me to talk about them and to pitch or sell them because we use the product. My company, Automax Recruiting and Training, would be half as effective without them. I mean, it's that powerful, and you want to look into it, give my son Joe a call, mention the Recruiter podcast, and you get a small discount. And it's a cheap monthly charge, and it's a 30-day agreement. So, I mean, it's a kind of a no-brainer deal. So that's pretty much where we're at there. So I just got a couple last things. We can wrap this thing up. Are you good time-wise? You all right? Okay. You sold your stores. You started your business. You're actively still?
No, hell no.
No. Okay, so you're just speaking to groups and so forth.
I get calls, as you can imagine, after all these years.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Craig, one thing I get, and I've sold too. I'm no broker. I don't want to be a broker, but
Right.
I enjoy fooling with this buy-sell thing. And I get guys who'll call and go tell me, I don't want anybody to know this, but I think I'm going to sell the Chevy store in such and such a town. But if you got any of your friends that are interested, I don't want it on the street, and they know I'm not going to put their business on the street.
Gotcha.
And I've sold too, and it was fun.
Yeah.
I'm the mediator because I know both sides. And one of them, typical dealer deal, this is a multi-million-dollar deal. Tim, I don't think I'm going to buy that store. I said, well, that ain't my decision.
Right. Right.
He said, do you know that he won't fix a $2,000 roof air? I said, well, I don't think it's just him. I think both of you are just being real stupid here. If you're out of money and ain't got $2,000 left to fix an air conditioning unit, don't buy the store.
No kidding. Yeah.
I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of that. But I don't care. That ain't my deal. You want
Right.
me to hook you up with a
Right.
buyer? I did. Y'all agreed on the figure. Have fun.
Right. Right.
Then the other would call and go, or he did call. Mm-hmm. Do you realize he's backing out of this over two? You know, it is. It doesn't surprise anybody.
Mm.
But I get a lot of calls of, do you remember when you told us that? And I go, yeah. Well, we got away from doing that. Would you come here? No, I ain't doing that anymore. But let's get on the phone with you guys, and I'll explain how to do it. But I speak at 20 groups, and I'll do
Right.
state associations,
Right.
and every once in a while, like, I'm intrigued with this rock star idea.
Yeah.
And I have a pretty good following, and
Yeah.
the ones that would come hear me speak probably already know me. You know?
Right. Right. I saw you speak in it was in Philadelphia or Cherry Hill at the Digital Dealer Workshop. I was in your presentation.
That was one of my last ones.
Was it? I was so impressed with that. It was just, smooth and easy to understand, but amazing content, really good content. You're a good follower, that's for sure. That's which is really important. So
I'm not an expert and I'm not a consultant. I'm an automotive trainer.
yeah,
I'm someone who gleaned from my peers a better way than the one I knew. And I was gifted with the ability to share that in a way that someone can understand it. I never take credit for anything I teach. Never. And I look at asking, and always have in a class, is there anybody doing anything now that makes more sense than this? And
good.
occasionally someone will go, well, here's what I'm doing. And if it's better, I'll scrap mine and use that,
right.
Things change.
Yes, sir.
They do. We did.
In a hurry.
I mean,
Thanks,
I'd have never believed you and I'd be sitting here sober after all this time. That's amazed me.
Yeah, that proves there's a God to me. I don't need much more proof than that, man.
Well, I thank you for having me, Craig. I really do. Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure.
The pleasure's been all mine. If someone wants to get a hold of you, you're on Facebook, obviously, and they can reach you that way. Is that the best way to
That'd
reach
probably
you?
be the best way to reach me.
All right, cool. Let me just end this by saying a couple things. First of all, hit that share button if you're watching us on our Facebook page, and share it out from YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. Also, we're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud. Gosh, we're on all of them. So, if you like the show and you see some value there, share it out and become a fan, subscribe. And Tim, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, such a gentleman, man. I appreciate you.
Craig, thank you so much,
Thank you,
sir.
man. Thanks. All right, everybody. God bless you. See you. Bye.
Now that